Namaste, Jai Hind, you're on CNN News 18. I'm Anand Narsimhan and it's time to set up the Saturday debate, ladies and gentlemen. It is around the Indus Water Treaty where India has finally put its foot down and said that if you're going to continue to cause hurdles, then all that was signed in 1960 can be re-looked at. Alarm bells will be ringing in Islamabad despite them trying to be very dismissive and nonchalant. The fact is that this entire treaty was brokered in the aegis of the World Bank. Why is it that Pakistan is trying to go to the court of arbitration now? We have critical projects in Kishanganga and Rattle which are getting stuck because of Pakistan trying to put roadblocks on our path to growth. And India has said enough is enough.
India has blamed Pakistan of intransigence on the implementation of the Indus Water Treaty and has issued a notice to modify the agreement. This is in connection to Pakistan's move in 2015 when it sought the appointment of a neutral expert to its objections to the Kishanganga and Ratle hydroelectric projects in India. The very next year, Islamabad retracted the request and sought a court of arbitration to adjudicate its objections. As per sources in the Indian government, the unilateral action by Pakistan was in contravention of the graded mechanism of dispute settlement in the treaty. Government sources also say Pakistan's move was unprecedented and has created a legally untenable situation which risks endangering the IWT itself. Sources add that despite repeated efforts by India to find a mutually agreeable way forward, Pakistan refused to discuss the issue during the 5 meetings of the Permanent Indus Commission from 2017 to 2022. India and Pakistan signed the IWT in September 1960 after 9-year-long negotiations. The World Bank was a signatory to the pact. The IWT sets out a mechanism for cooperation and information exchange with the Ravi, Satluj and Beas with India and the Indus, Jhelum and Chenab with Pakistan. Meanwhile, the first hearing began at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague on Friday. India boycotted the Court of Arbitration and in the notice to Pakistan called for meetings to resolve the dispute. However, Pakistan has called the notice misleading and in bad faith. So is Pakistan guilty of stalling bilateral efforts to boost development projects on the Indus River?
No end to Pak betrayal is a question that we ask. Let's go straight across to our guest here on the Saturday debate. Ashok Sajanharji, Ambassador, former diplomat, is with us. We also have Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director, India Foundation with us, and also Professor Madhav Nalapat, Vice Chair, Manipal Advanced Research Group. I'm going to start with Madhav Nalapatji. Are you saying, in your head, are you thinking, Der aaye durust aaye, finally India puts its foot down saying enough is enough? Have we waited for too long?
Anand, the fact is that unfortunately, in the past, India had a tendency to crawl when it was only asked to bend. The Indus Water Treaty is the most one-sided water treaty ever signed by any 2 countries. In fact, international estimates are that what has been given up by India in the Indus Water Treaty is more than the total of what was given up by upper riparian states in every other such treaty in the world. The reality is that India got a very bad deal out of this. So bad that, for example, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, no less, passed a resolution, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, not once but twice, demanding the abrogation of this treaty because this particular treaty was very unfair to Jammu and Kashmir, while flooding Pakistan, Punjab, which, as you know, is the home of the Pakistan military and the most anti-India force, in the subcontinent, as well, with water for its irrigation. So the point is very simple. I am just wondering why that it took 74 years before finally the government of India has acted, and I'm glad it is acted. Don't forget, Anand, I just want to close by saying this was signed during Cold War 1.0 between the USSR and the US, where India was seen by the US as a fellow traveler of the USSR. And guess who's the moderator? Umpire. It is the World Bank, controlled by the United States, which frankly sees India as a Cold War ally of the Soviet Union and Pakistan as its own ally. Seato, CENTO, you name it. It's the most one-sided water treaty ever. It's one of the most one-sided treaties ever signed. Versailles, the Treaty of Versailles is another such example. But this was it. And it's high time, very frankly, this entire treaty is given a relook and made at least 60-40. Today, it's 10-90. 10% of advantage to India, 90 to Pakistan. It should be a minimum of 40% advantage to India and 60% to Pakistan. Be generous. But the point is, our philosophy has been till recently, and thank God for Prime Minister Modi changing that policy. If you give Pakistan unilateral concessions, someday the army in Pakistan will change and become generous in turn. Guess what? With every concession, they only demand more and they only hit India more.
Yeah, you give a little finger and they'll take the hand. That's their philosophy, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar. But why did it take so long for us to wisen up? And in fact, we are not even using the full quota that's allotted to us, even as per the treaty. We are taking only about 12 to 13% of the water, 7 to 8%. We are still allowing it to flow into Pakistan. Why? We should actually be pushing, saying, "Acha 20, thoda 22 ho gaya, don't worry." How is it? And we are the ones which is upper riparian. On the one hand, we are being bullied by the Chinese on our Brahmaputra and the river systems which are flowing in from China, and on the other, we are getting we are bowing down to this kind of shenanigans by the Pakistanis.
You're absolutely right, Anand. I think this is actually it befuddles the mind as to why it has taken us so long. You'd recall that even in more recent times there have been calls coming from the people in India that we need to, either abrogate the treaty or rework the treaty because, water is like oil. It is the new gold. Yeah. And, water is very, very precious. And as it has been mentioned, it's a very unequal treaty because about 80% of the water has been given up to Pakistan. In addition, the point that you have made is a very valid and a very relevant one, Anand, that even what is allowed to us as per the provisions of the treaty, we are not using it. And when we try to use it, as you mentioned, as your report also mentioned, whether it is Kishan Ganga or it is Ratle, Jhelum, Chenab, we are well within our rights to construct these hydroelectric projects. But when we do that, Pakistan raises obstacles. And I think the current issue is that the same case has been taken to two courts for settlement. One in terms of the independent adjudicator and the other is the Court of Arbitration. And the point that India has been making is that you cannot have two courts looking at the same case. Yeah. Because if both of them were to come up with different decisions, with different pronouncements, then of course it is going to lead to problems. And I think India is very justified in saying that we need to register the experience that we have gained. We have found what are the problems with the treaty. And after 62 years of the treaty that was established between the two countries, we really need to go back again to the drawing board. You made a very valid point, Anand, when you say about China being the upper riparian. Right. You would recall that China does not even share the hydrological data with India. And you would remember that, around the time of the Doklam conflict, we had so much of sludge and black mud coming through the Brahmaputra. And, we did not really know anything about it as to how it had come. And China only said, it was thought that they are constructing some dams and there was a problem on that score. China is also, at fault with taking all the river water as far as the Mekong River is concerned.
Yes.
And the lower riparians, whether it is Laos or it is Cambodia or Vietnam, they don't get their own share. Here we have been so generous. No other upper riparian country in the world has been so generous, and we are still getting the short end of the stick. So I think it is high time that we put a stop to this. So I very warmly welcome this decision by the government, applaud this decision by the government, and we really need to take it to its ultimate conclusion.
See, one is ruthless and unsparing with respect to the enemy. That's Pakistan. The other one is ruthless and unsparing when it comes to its own interests. General Katoch, that is China. We are the ones for whom tolerance has not become now not a virtue but a vice and a weakness. Tolerance and compassion or empathy should not be taken for a weakness. And General Katoch, this is important for us because we need to push through these projects because this can become a huge weapon against terrorism. We can tell the Pakistanis, especially the Paki military establishment, that you switch off terror, otherwise we switch off the water.
Anand, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I think for a very long time, we have been very docile. And I really haven't understood the fundamentals of that policy. I can understand why that policy was created in 1960. That time, India was a very weak country. We were suffering from shortages of every particular item which you can think of. But most especially, we had a shortage of food grains. And we were dependent on the West from countries like the United States for things like food grains. So even when we did the 1965 treaty, we had to go in for that because the Americans were supplying us the food grains through the PL 480, and the Russians, we were holding it at Tashkent, the meeting per se. So we were in a very, very hard spot, so to say. But I think that is all history now. Now we have got to renegotiate this treaty. And if they do not agree to a renegotiation, then I think the next best course is to say we abrogate it.
Yeah.
And there have been people who have been telling me that there is no exit clause in the treaty.
Correct.
But then if we are one of the signatories to the treaty, then we can always get out. We are an independent country and we'd say, no, it's not working.
General
Pakistan has made certain conditions. They are not letting us work, especially with respect to the construction of dams. Now, the treaty in the annexure to the treaty, it is very clearly laid out that India can construct those free-flowing dams there. You are authorized a certain amount of pondage, and that excess flow of water to make the system work, both dead storage and live storage. Now, all that is authorized in the treaty. All that India was asking all these years is, we want to implement what is available to us in that treaty. And Pakistan is raising objections. So if they raise objections to these aspects of the treaty, I think the Indian stance has to be very clear. Either you accept what we say, or we discard the treaty and it has become non-functional because you're not allowing us to implement it. Now, every time you...
General Katoch, I have viewers watching it. General Katoch, I have viewers saying 2015 UFA Pact, Pakistan is not agreeing. It's not following the UFA Pact that it signed. Their 2015 pact they are not signing. This is a 1960 treaty. At that time we did the technology for the dams, the geopolitical situation, everything was different. The World Bank was a different entity at that time. Today India is a different entity. Why should we even think about it? They said, "Arey purana ho gaya." You change the notes. These treaties are so old, they need to be changed. Otherwise, we should turn around and say, you signed a lot of things. You go back to that. You pull out all your troops as far as the UN resolution is concerned, clause number 1. No, then we'll think about this treaty. Why is it that it takes 8 years of the Modi government, Madhavji, for India to even assert itself? Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about the IWT sometime in 2017, 2018. And he said that let's use our percentage of the water. And there was a huge furor. Why can't we be as brutal to Pakistan? Because we are serving our interests. And we are not saying we are taking their water. We are saying what is due to us. 20-21% is our due, we'll take it.
Anand, in my view, Prime Minister Modi began in 2014 a process of transformation that will continue for 15 years. That is up to 2029. And that is why why he has had to go step by step, stage by stage, but he is moving stage by stage. Well, take this question of so-called international arbitration. No arbitration is fair. It's affected by geopolitical factors.
Yes.
There are four great powers in the world. Three of them ignore any kind of arbitration unless it is in their favor. India is one country that has accepted arbitration so far, even when it goes against us, especially when it goes against us. Why? I have really no idea at all. This particular treaty, it has been generous to Pakistan. Pakistan is 1/3 the size of India. In terms of population, even less it was at that point in time. And yet, then why the generosity? Don't people count? Why were the people of India counted as 1/3 or 1/4?
Correct.
Or even less? Or no, I would say 1/12, if you look at an accurate calculation of the people in Pakistan. They were 12 times more valuable, according to those who designed this treaty, and frankly, to those who signed it. In my view, Anand, 1965, they launched a war. 1999, they launched a war. Frankly, we had enough reason to abrogate that treaty at that point in time. We didn't do so.
Correct.
And in my view, it's thank God we're having a relook at it, because quite frankly, I'd like to say that this has been an unmitigated folly, this folly of unilateral concessions.
And a strategic error somewhere, Ambassador Sajjanara. I have limited time. I just want to quickly get your thoughts on this. Strategic error, diplomatic error. We did not use the water treaty as a tool to fight and to counter Pakistan's proxy war. We didn't do it. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have a very valid point there. So far, Anand, what we have been doing is we have been rule takers. The others have been making the rules and we have been forced to lump it. Now we are also the rule makers, in terms of both on the global scene as well as on the bilateral and the regional context. So I think this is a measure of both the confidence, the boldness, as well as the strength. Not only economic strength, but also political strength that India has, the strategic strength that India has. And India needs to use that muscle. I don't mean use the muscle in, in an aggressive way, but definitely in terms of taking what is rightfully ours, what is justly ours, and what even the treaty has mandated that it is ours. And if those provisions are not working in a balanced way, in a just manner, then of course we need to go ahead and to either seek its revision, seek its amendment, because Pakistan has been so intransigent.
Right.
Or otherwise, if it doesn't work, then give it due notice and abrogate it. And do it in a transparent manner, do it in a step-by-step manner, so that the world is also aware that we are following the due process of law. We have given all the opportunities, all the chances to Pakistan to come to the negotiating table and to get a fair, just result out of it. They have refused to do it, and that is why our hands have been forced.
No, it's not about being hands being forced. That's where we should not say कि हम मजबूर हो गए कि हमको ये करना पड़ रहा है. Point is, हमसे गलती हो गई, हमने पहले नहीं किया. We will do it now and we'll do it ruthlessly. Because for us, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh matter, people of Punjab matter, people of Haryana matter, and we are going to go ahead and do it no matter what. And if you have a problem, deal with it at your end. I don't care. Because you wage this war against me, I will go brutal against you, and I won't care for you. That's the message that we have got to send. Because there is a saying that लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते, sir. And for 62 years or plus, we've been trying to talk to them, especially with these tools. We need to learn from our enemies also what they do right. Like the Chinese use comprehensive national power, let's take a leaf out of that and be brazen about it. As a nation, we deserve the water that that is owed to us. Not 20%, 30% is what we should turn around and say, if not more. I thank you all. In fact, I'm going to request you to stay. I thank you all. We've just have enough time right now. We just have enough time right now on the show, ladies and gentlemen, to share with you what the Prime Minister's message was at the NCC PM rally. Marking 75 years of the NCC, we had cadets from more than 19 countries who came and participated at the parade ground. We leave you with a short excerpt of the Prime Minister's message.
आजादी के 75 वर्ष के इस पड़ाव में एनसीसी भी अपनी 75वीं वर्षगांठ मना रहा है। इन वर्षों में जिन लोगों ने एनसीसी का प्रतिनिधित्व किया है, जो इसका हिस्सा रहे हैं, मैं राष्ट्र निर्माण में उनके योगदान की सराहना करता हूं। आज इस समय मेरे सामने जो कैडेट्स हैं, जो इस समय एनसीसी में हैं, वो तो और भी विशेष है, स्पेशल है। आज जिस प्रकार से कार्यक्रम की रचना हुई है, सिर्फ समय नहीं बदला है, स्वरूप भी बदला है। पहले की तुलना में दर्शक भी बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में है और कार्यक्रम की रचना भी विविधताओं से भरी हुई, लेकिन एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के मूल मंत्र को हिंदुस्तान के कोने कोने में ले जाने वाला ये समारोह हमेशा हमेशा याद रहेगा। और इसलिए मैं एनसीसी की पूरी टीम को, उनके सभी अधिकारी और व्यवस्थापक सबको हृदय से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं।